Time now for our Power Core panel of reporters covering the White House. Joining me this evening, I have with me Julia Manchester from Washington, and we have Chris Riota, a political reporter from The Independent in New York. Good evening to both of you, and thank you for coming in on CTV this evening.
Thank you.
Hi, Julia, I'll make a start with you. What do you think we can expect from this latest inquiry?
Well, I think from the latest inquiry, we can see that the House Judiciary Committee and I think several House committees are really zeroing in on the Trump administration. I mean, going back to the testimony from Michael Cohen, we saw that these inquiries were essentially laid out by Cohen in his questioning. We saw him bring up a ton of names from the Trump organization, most notably Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the organization. So we're going to see him targeted, as well as the president's children. We've heard Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump's names being floated as potential witnesses to testify, because there's been questions as to what they knew about the dealings to build a potential Trump Tower in Moscow. So we saw that Michael Cohen really laid this all out. And especially, I would say that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did a really good job questioning that and has laid out a lot of these investigations for the future.
All right, Chris, the House of Judiciary Committee is now issuing demands for documents from at least 60 entities as well. What else and who else do you think now could be a target?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Julia said, it appears that there's going to be a very heavy focus on the president's family. We got to hear a little bit from Michael Cohen about what he knew about the alleged Russian collusion during the 2016 election. You'll remember he said that he didn't actually have any direct evidence or knowledge of Russian collusion, but he did hear some strange interactions between the president and his son, Donald Trump Jr., in which he stood behind the desk and sort of conveyed that it appeared that there was some developments happening between Roger Stone and Julian Assange regarding the leaked emails from Hillary Clinton's team in the 2016 election. So that will definitely be a focus. We could see as many as some of the family members and the CFO of the Trump organization be forced to speak to Congress. We could see some more subpoenas being handed down as well in the coming weeks ahead.
Right. Julia, coming back to you, we understand that now at least 5 or 6 such investigations are on where the House of Democrats is concerned against President Donald Trump. I'd like to understand from you the next, 1.5 years, how do you think this is really going to proceed politically for the president?
Well, I think the president will continue to really badmouth a lot of these investigations, as well as the Mueller investigation. I mean, just looking at CPAC yesterday, we saw the president was really guns out in terms of slamming these investigations. And I think his political base will ultimately agree with him. However, I do question whether these investigations will ultimately have really an impact on what the average American outside of Washington, D.C. or New York feels about Trump and the U.S. government. We actually did a poll at the Hill with our partners at HarrisX, and we saw that there was actually no really movement into how Republicans or Democrats felt about Michael Cohen's testimony, for example. If you're a Democrat, you're probably going to believe Cohen. If you're a Republican, you're not going to believe him. So I think a lot of Americans outside of these coastal bubbles see this as more of an inside Washington game, and they're probably going to want to focus more on issues such as the economy and job growth.
Right. Chris, if I put that question across to you as well, and we bring in the aspect of 2020 elections not too far, with all these inquiries on, what are the implications of these, you think, on the president?
Yeah, we saw Gerald Nadler, who spearheads the House Judiciary Committee, come out today and say that it's very obvious to him that the president obstructed justice. But yet he's saying that we're not at the point of an impeachment yet. And he's not even calling the investigations that will precede, impeachment investigations. So it could be a matter of whether or not the public actually demands that these sort of proceedings move into an impeachment trial. In which case the president would certainly be facing some major setbacks coming into 2020. Although, like Julia said, there doesn't seem to be much of a shift within his support. He actually enjoys some unprecedented support for a Republican president from his Republican base, and that does not appear to have budged. So whether the Mueller report is going to, eventually shift any of the public sentiment towards the president, we'll just have to wait and see.
You mentioned the I word, and that's something that's been doing the rounds for the last 6 months. And Julia, let me put this across to you. We understand it's a long way, really a long road when it comes to impeachment. But what is the possibility really over here, looking at the pressure that's continuing to now mount and the kind of defensive mode the president now is in, Julia?
Look, impeachment is definitely very possible at this point with the Democrats in control of the House. The question for Democrats that I have is, so they'll put all of this money, this political capital and focus and resources into impeaching President Trump from the House. However, everyone knows that once that impeachment were to go to the Republican-controlled Senate, it would essentially be dead on arrival. So I don't know necessarily if impeachment is necessarily a politically feasible term for Democrats right now, because they know that it won't be able to get through the Senate. So that could look from the eyes of the average American as, I guess, wasted resources, if you will, whereas Democrats could be spending more time essentially bridging the gap with the Republicans. That's an argument that I could expect to hear from the administration as well as congressional Republicans.
Okay, let's just go back a couple of hours, in fact, 24 hours ago. And Chris, this one's for you. We saw how the president reacted yesterday at the 2-hour-long conservative conference, you know, the kind of reactions, the name calling, he swore, he had the crowds cheering when he did that. I want to understand, how do you think the president is really now going to react, according to you, with this latest inquiry?
Yeah, you know, look, this isn't the first time that we've seen the president go off script. Typically, when there's a bad week for the White House, we'll see him hold one of these major rallies or, you know, conduct one of these speeches where he sort of really is putting a speakerphone up to his base and demanding their support. He also sort of spewed a number of falsities. I believe he increased the annual trade deficit with the U.S. and China to about $500 billion. He also deflated the amount that his 2016 opponent, Hillary Clinton, received in terms of electoral votes. I think he said 223. She actually received 232. So, you know, this, again, will just be more of what we can expect to see the president doing in the next few weeks and the next few months, as there are more explosive revelations and more of these sort of testimonies coming forward in which his sort of alleged criminal misconduct is exposed. We can definitely expect to see him not only just tweeting about it in real time, but we can also see him certainly taking to his base and demanding their support with these sort of wild speeches.
All right. I would have loved to get Julia's thoughts as well, but we're running completely out of time right now. But thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us, Julia Manchester and Chris Riota. Thanks for joining us on Power Panel this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.